I want to announce the first speaker, Mrs. Gwendolyn Landburg from the National Zoological Collection in Suriname, part of the Anton de Kom University. The title of the presentation is "The Use of Community Monitoring in Detecting Wildlife Patterns." Promises to be a very interesting topic. So, Ms. Gwendolyn, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Professor Lipat. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, I will try to share my screen. Does everybody see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the title of my presentation is a little bit adjusted. It is the use of community monitoring in managing wildlife in protected areas in Suriname. And it is an ongoing project that we are implementing with different partners. I will talk about it at the end. Since 2021 till now, and I will present some of the results. So my presentation, you see the next slide, right?
Yeah, it's going great.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So the content of my presentation, I will give an introduction, then state the goal of the project, and then explain the project activities, the benefits for the community, and I will end with the challenges. So Suriname, we all Suriname, one of the greatest country on earth. It has a great variety of fauna, flora, and ecosystems. And we also have a protected area in system in which 30.5% of the area is protected and can be divided in nature reserve, multiple use management areas, and we have one nature park. Management of these areas and also outside of the protected areas is done based on the Game Act and the Nature Conservation Act. But what we see is that the management of biodiversity in the protected areas requires intensive involvement of the government, which means they have to go to the areas which most of the time is in the hinterland of Suriname. So they lack human resources, equipment, transportation, and enforcement. So there is a little bit a problem with the management of these areas. So switching to ITPs, the indigenous and tribal peoples, we know that these ITPs, they have a very close relationship to the forest, and we can see that in the traditions, the cultures, and the livelihood. As Mr. Palabrangi, Executive Director of the Camping Foundation, once stated that we indigenous people consider nature and the forest as our life, culture, worship, and everything. We can never separate nature and forest from our life, and therefore we nurse the forest and protect it for our own and generations to come. So that makes clear that ITPs and forests are inseparable. We also know that more than 50% of world's terrestrial areas falls within ITP territories, and for Latin America and the Caribbean, that is approximately 30%. Also in Suriname, ITP settlements can be found in almost all districts of Suriname and near or in all protected areas. Looking at ITPs and nature conservation, as stated before, they have a close relationship with the forest and they are being seen as the guardian of the forest with their enormous knowledge and preservation traditions. And but what we see in not only in Suriname but also in the region, that ITPs mostly live in vulnerability social situations, which means that they lack the have. And more we see that this is something that bothers them, and we see in some areas that this can lead to more pressure on other unsustainable use of the natural resources in the protected areas. So with the minimal management capacity of the government and also with the social situations of the ITPs, about the forest and about the natural resources, we came up with the concept of setting up a community monitoring program that benefits both the ITPs and also the government. So the goal of the project that I will talk about is to set up an effective community monitoring program within 2 ITP villages to monitor wildlife with increased benefits for the community, but also for the government. So this community monitoring project, as I was saying, started in 2021 and is still going on, and is being carried out in 2 protected areas. That is the Boven-Coosawaina Nature Reserve and the Galibi Nature Reserve. And the project can be divided in 3 phases: the inception phase, the assessments and awareness, and the 3rd phase is the improvement and capacity building. And I will explain for all the phases what we have done. So for the inception phase was more asking permission from the communities to carry out the assessments. And for that, we had different meetings with the communities and had to explain what the project was about. We had discussion and brainstorming sessions where we talked about the focus of the monitoring, and that at that time it was decided to focus on the jaguar, and with that on other big cats, because the jaguar is one of our keystone species, and we know that if we take out the keystone species, that will have a negative effect on the ecosystem. But also the prey species are important, and also we wanted to have an idea about the habitat, because we didn't know at that time what the status was for the habitat. So we also discussed about the study sites, because the locals, they have more knowledge about where are the species found, which area is accessible, etc. And so we came up with the study sites. And also we had to introduce the fact of the community monitoring program, where we use local assistants from the community to do the surveys. And with that, we came up with a field team composition. So during the inception also was the training also a training component, and that was hands-on, which means that we went into the field, and for the fauna, for the jaguars, we did camera trapping, and for the habitat, we did the habitat description, and all the training was in the field, in which the locals learned how to do the assessment while setting up the monitoring program. So here you have some pictures about how they set up the cameras, how they could service the cameras, and which measurement they did during the habitat description assessment. I will come back to that later. Okay, so the phase 2 was then the real field assessments. We did, as I was saying, we did for the fauna assessment, we did camera trappings, in which we have 50 camera traps in 5 clusters in each location. And until now, we have for Galibi 327 trap nights that the cameras were in the field. And for Pigipoica, so that's the Boven-Coosawaina Nature Reserve, we have 605 trap nights. For Galibi, it was less, because we started during COVID, and COVID, you know what the problem was, you couldn't access all the areas. There were outbreaks in Galibi, so we had to wait, I think, almost a year before we could start there. Here you see also some pictures of the species that we caught on cameras, including the jaguar and the puma. Here are some of the results that we presented to the community based on what we got out of the camera traps, in which we then explained how many times we have seen a certain species on the camera. So the number of triggers is the amount of time that we have seen a certain species on the camera. And we would have then discussions about what these results say, and also what are the conclusions and if they agree with what they see, because they also know what's in the area. And sometimes we had then the discussion about the name of the species, because they call the species different. That's why for now we have put the species name in the local names. Also, here's some analysis for the jaguars, activity pattern, where we have seen throughout the day, based on the camera traps, how the jaguar moves within the area. And we have seen that for BCNR, both for Kuswena Nature Reserve, and that for Galibi. And we would discuss with the community also, so why do you see that there is a dip during the day in BCNR, while that is less in Galibi? And they would come up with their own solutions or with their own answers, like, yeah, during the day we have a lot of people in the nature reserve, so you will not see the jaguar. While in Galibi, in that area, it's less people in the nature reserve during the day. Okay, field assessments included also the habitat description, in which we had 8 cross-shaped landscapes at 3 and 5 kilometer radius around the village. And the parameters there measured were the vegetation composition, the light intensity, the horizontal visibility, and the presence of water resources. And here you will see that we have made a very extensive assessment of the vegetation composition in the plots. And then we will discuss with the local communities, okay, if you see this kind of vegetation, what kind of forest is it? Is it disturbed? Is it undisturbed? And the conclusions about that. Then we have the phase 2, also the social assessments. We also did social assessments, and the goal of these social assessments were to identify human-jaguar interactions and the meaning of the jaguar for the villagers, because you can protect something if you don't know about the species. And we wanted to know what is the perception of the villagers about the species. So for Bova Kusawena Nature Reserve, Bigipoika is then the village. The conclusions were that the jaguars are not being killed, but also not being seen often, but they have a strong spiritual and cultural connection with the jaguar, which are included in tales and songs about the tiger shaman. We have that song even on a video. But what they also mentioned is that there is a lack of government enforcement, which lead to that a lot of illegal hunters are in the nature reserve, and a lot of poaching is going on. And this endangers both the jaguars and the prey populations. And the villagers stated during the social assessment that they want to contribute to the protection of the jaguar. In Galibi, almost the same, but their jaguars are not usually seen, but if they are being seen, then they are being killed for economic and cultural purposes. For the cultural purposes, they culturally they use the jaguar teeth and skin as ornaments in their houses, but they also say that it's very expensive. So if you have that in your house, then you're like a rich person. They also kill the jaguar out of will also kill the jaguar out of self-defense, but also there the jaguar is not usually seen. They mostly see jaguar tracks that is behind the village and on the beach, Babun Santi. That is where then we see, they have seen the jaguar tracks, and we have seen them also. The jaguar in Galibi has some spiritual meaning. There were some old tales about men turning into a jaguar when they want to attract a lady. That was contradicted about part of the community, and part was like, yes, those tales are true. But I think Galibi has a much younger generation, so these tales are not given over to the next generation. But they have concerns about the jaguar because they see there is hunting pressure in the area, and they don't see the cubs of the jaguar in the area anymore. So phase 2 was also awareness component, where we made posters about the Jaguar, about the project, and about the role of the Jaguar in the ecosystem. So you see those 2 posters there. We made 2 or 3 videos. Well, you see there one of the captains of Bofakusawina Nature Reserve also was in the video, where he explained what the benefits are of the project for the community. And we had also a drawing competition with the local schools, where they had to draw on the Jaguar, and the best drawing was then put as a mural on the school wall also. We also had natural Jaguar events. The Jaguar, that project was also one of the themes at the Earth Hour 2023, and the project was also mentioned in a British international magazine. Beside the assessment, we also had evaluation sessions in which we then sit down with the local community and present the results, but also talk about improvement of the project, what can we do better, and what are the results telling us. So those evaluation sessions were very insightful because they helped us to improve the implementation of the project. Okay, then we have phase 3, that is improvement and capacity building. So for the assessment in the field, those were very on the ground, and we would write everything down on paper if needed, and we had the information of the camera traps. But we wanted to advance the assessment by implementing the SMART tool, that is the spatial monitoring and reporting tool, in which you record everything by phone, and if the infrastructure is there, then you have that information directly sent to, for example, to Paramaribo, where it is then being stored in a database. And from there on, you can extract reports about the assessment that was done in the field, and you can share it with more stakeholders, and more stakeholders can be involved. So we started the training in 2023 in Galibi with not only the locals, but also people from NCD, that is the Nature Conservation Division, to implement SMART. And this year we did the training again, where we also had someone coming from the SMART International Network from Cambodia coming to Suriname and doing the training again. We recently started with the implementation of SMART in the field, where you see that the locals can use their phones to store the data that they gathered in the field. We are still in the process of implementing this system. And then also, because we know that for field vegetation assessment, we have a need of tree spotters, and in Suriname, tree spotters are scarce. Most of them are above 60, can't go back to the field anymore. So we decided to have to give a tree spotter training, in which the locals are trained to be tree spotters. And then when we have the vegetation assessment, then we have these people available in the community. So also this year we gave a tree spotters training. It was given by the National Herbarium, one of our partners. And so we build that capacity, that when we have the next vegetation assessments, that these tree spotters are there, and then they can be used for the project. So the benefits of the project for the communities and for Suriname. In the end of till now, we have local trained field assistants. Galibi, we have 10, and Pigipoika, we have 11. We have an increased awareness within the local communities regarding the protection of the jaguar. We hope that we have an increased ownership perspective of the local communities regarding the territory, including the biodiversity and the community monitoring program. With the assessment that we are doing, we have increased surveillance in these areas, and that can serve as an early warning system. If you see something that is wrong, that you can report it, and if it's needed that NCD or another government authority has to come in, that we do that. And it is for sure beneficial for biodiversity in this area. There is also a financial benefit for the community because all the field assistants are being paid, and we make sure that when we do the assessment in the communities, that we make use of the local logistics, so transportation, accommodation, food, that is all taken as much as possible within the community, and also other any aspect that the community can get a financial benefit from, we try to encourage that. For Suriname, for sure, this project contributes to the goals of the protected area systems and the availability of long-term data, but also for the community because, like, for example, within the Boven-Koerswinne Nature Reserve, the data is being used for the FSC forest management project that they have outside of the reserve. So the data, they use that within their audits, or the FSC audits. And for Galibi, they use that data as documentation and to translate it in the local language. So for the tree list, they are translating that now into the local language and document that. And yes, what I was saying, also the long-term data can be used for policy and reporting purposes. We have to report to CBD and other international conventions, and then you need long-term data, which this project provides. And of course, we have now an increased cooperation between institutions and communities. Some challenges that the project has, we have to keep the community engaged in the concept that conservation pays. As I was saying in the beginning, for them, they want to have also economic development within their community, and it is easier to turn to the natural resources, but you have to make sure that they start to believe that conservation and preserving that also pays, and that is an ongoing thing that we are doing, but it still poses problems because for them they want to see the money fast. And the thing is that because the land right issues are not resolved yet, that also brings another component to the first point, because they're like, okay, if the land is not mine, then how can I protect something that's not mine? But then they rather go for economic development than preservation. And of course, it is a challenge to keep the community monitoring project ongoing because you need finances, you need funding. So it is every time looking for funding to continue the project. Okay, so last slide is the partners and donors. So the implementing partners is the National Zoological Collection, together with the National Herbarium, both institutions within the Anton de Kom University. And we have as partner the Ministry of Forest Management. And the project has been funded by RSL2, WWF, and the Suriname Conservation Foundation. And that was my last slide. Thank you for your attention. And if there are questions, I am here to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Landberg. Indeed, a nice presentation. Compliments. Are there questions from the participants? You can also ask questions in the chat directly to the speaker if you think that's more relevant. Or in a later stadium, you can send an email through Hans. I see Hans has a question.
I had a question about the value of the jaguar for local people, because it said also for the hunting, the reasons for it, one of them is economic, but there is also a lot of cultural value, and so typically probably those are not the same people. The ones that is it known, are people coming out for being a hunter or not?
No, the people that hunt, they are seeing are more the people outside of the community. But they say if they see a jaguar and they or the ornaments, etc. But they point out that it's more the people from outside of the community that will kill the jaguar.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Ms. Fernando.
Yes, I have a question regarding the vegetation survey. The tree spotters, are they trained to mention the names of the trees in the local language or use the scientific names?
Both. So the assessment is being done now with the National Herbarium, and the tree spotter that we use is indigenous himself. So, but he's not from the community. He used to work at the silos. He's now retired, so he's doing the assessment. And he was also the trainer during the tree spotter training. So when they are in the field, they first use the local name, and that may differ between the two communities. And when the National Herbarium comes back to the university, then they couple it to the scientific name. What the locals from Calibi are doing now are translating the local names to the local language.
Yeah, because for Calibi, for example, the local names have not yet been connected to scientific names. So there's no booklet where you can look it up easily.
No,
Okay.
They are now in the process. It's one of the things they want to do now.
Okay.
Okay, one last question from Ms. Cardozo.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could share some of your experience with training the local people. How was that, and also especially does it impact their awareness and willingness to protect and participate in the research in a different perspective?
So if you go to the communities and you tell them, okay, let's go protect the jaguar, and they don't have any benefits from it, it's difficult. So you have to translate that also in benefits for the community. And that makes it that they are willing to do it. And they are like, okay, now it's work for me. There are some videos on YouTube about this project where the guy said, this is a work for me, so I will do it. And with that, I protect my community. In that sense, then it makes sense to protect the jaguar. But otherwise, if you just go and say, okay, we will protect the jaguar, they were like, okay, but I have to eat tomorrow. So what are you saying? So you have to combine the benefits for them with the conservation benefits. You have to combine both aspects.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. If there are any other questions, please share it in the chat or through email through Ms. Landwehr.